Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike Green. I'm one of the owners of 1A Auto. I want to help you save time and money repairing and maintaining your vehicle. I'm going to use my 20 plus years experience restoring and repairing cars and trucks like this to show you the correct way to install parts from 1AAuto.com. The right parts installed correctly. That's going to save you time and money. Thank you and enjoy the video.
In this video, we're going to show you front hub replacement on this 2001 Ford Taurus, same as any 96 to 07 Taurus. This is an involved replacement, jack stands, lots of different sockets, ratchets, and wrenches. You need a larger 30mm socket, a tie rod puller, a big hammer, a pry bar, and a screwdriver. And you'll probably need an air hammer because the steering knuckle is aluminum and tends to get seized, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, start by using a screwdriver and pry off the little cap and try not to fumble it like I do. Okay, so if you have the benefit of air tools, so the air ratchet's the best way. This is a 30mm hub nut, and you want to remove it with the air tools. If you don't have air tools, you want to have your car on the ground, wheels on the ground, and then you can remove this with hand tools. You're going to need a large breaker bar because it is on here tight. And now use a 19mm socket to remove the wheel. Next, remove the cotter pin that holds the bolt for the tie rod end. Okay, this is 18mm. Okay, now you're going to use a tie rod end and ball joint puller or pusher. Just try to make sure it's lined up as straight as you can. Okay, that pops, and that's disconnected. Penetrating oil on the upper stabilizer link bolt and the strut clamp bolt, and yes, you'll notice that the tie rod end is connected again because I kind of shot it out of sequence. Those soaked. There's a 10mm bolt right here that you can remove that holds the brake line bracket. We'll kind of speed through that. Then you pull that brake line bracket out, and then you slide the bracket that has the ABS sensor up and pull that clip off. The upper stabilizer bolt, you'll need an 18mm wrench, and then you can see I've got a 10mm wrench on there in case I need to hold that shaft still, and it turns out that this actually comes apart without even having to hold that in place. Okay. You can pull that link out, and then I'm just putting that bolt back on for safekeeping. And now the bolt that holds the lower end of the strut. Okay, so it's an 18mm wrench that I'm going to use to hold it. And this is a 21mm. Okay, so I've just taken the bolt the rest of the way off by hand, and I actually accidentally drop it actually. Okay, and then a small hammer or a hammer, and just drive that bolt out. You have to drive it all the way out to that bolt actually does hold on to the strut, and once you get it out you can usually pull it out right by hand. And then you need a good sized hammer, and you just hit the top of the steering knuckle, and if you look real close you can basically see the disc sliding down off of the strut. And we'll speed it up a little bit here. Okay, so the big red arrow, that is the axle shaft coming through the hub. And usually I give that a nice big wrap, and it loosens right up, and that's the case. It was actually loose on this Taurus. Usually just a nice big hammer, give it one big wrap, and it'll loosen it up. Okay, so now I'm ready to separate the strut from the steering knuckle. So just kind of pull the wires out of the way and down, and then the washer from the hub bolt actually just kind of fell down. Okay, and then move everything down. Slightly different angle here. Use a smaller pry bar or a big screwdriver, and basically just pry your axle up out of the hub. And obviously be careful of that one line right there, that is the brake line. There's generally enough slack in it to do this. Then you pry it up, and pop it out, and then you'll grab onto it with your hands and pull it up. This does require some strength and some force, so you can pull it up and out. Okay, now underneath, on the business end of that axle, just put a pry bar in there, and it's just a snap ring that holds that in place, so just pry it right out.
You're going to want to remove these two 12mm bolts, and then these two 15mm bolts. These two 12mm will allow the disc caliper to come off, and then these 15mm bolts will allow the bracket to come off, which then allows the rotor to come off. And to remove the hub, there's now three 15mm bolts here, here, and up here. And without the axle, with the axle in, you can get to these two okay, but it's very difficult to get to the one up here.
Okay, now what I'm doing here is I'm just going to fast motion. I'm going to remove the caliper, and then I'm going to use a wire tie to secure it up top. And now I'm going to use my 15mm on the impact wrench, remove that bracket, and also remove the three bolts that are holding the hub. Okay, because the steering knuckle is aluminum and the hub is cast iron, they have seized together, and I imagine this is probably a common problem in any Taurus. So what I'm actually using is an air hammer, and you can see I'm wearing protective eyewear and everything. And basically I'm just working like crazy to try and get that hub out of there. And probably on this vehicle you're going to want to have access to the air hammer, because it took me, I would say, probably a good 10 minutes of banging away on it until I finally got it free.
What I've done, I used a wire brush, try and get most of the corrosion out I can. And what I'm going to use is just a little bit of anti-seize. Also just kind of lubricate stuff a little bit. Got my bolts back in, so I'll put my new hub in and get one bolt started here. Get the second one started. And a third one.
And now what I'm going to do is slowly tighten them up kind of evenly, so it just basically pulls the hub evenly into the steering knuckle. You don't want to just tighten one up and then tighten the other ones. You want to just tighten them a few turns each at a time.
And now with the torque wrench, we're going to tighten these up to 70 foot-pounds.
Okay, and because this is an HD video and there's a 15-minute time limit, if you want to see the rest of putting this all back together, just check out our second video for this series. We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.